With the threats to our planet from climate change, we all know we have to reduce our carbon footprint. One of the best ways you can do that is going back to the thing that used to fuel and support our lives in the past, the woodlands. We need to bring these neglected woodlands back into management to produce timber to build our houses and to fuel our homes. Timber that is carbon lean and not contributing to global warming. Now we'll go and look at some of the things you can do with our timber. Here we can see the crook frame barn from outside. This typical construction technique would have been the way most agricultural buildings in England were built, from the Middle Ages right up to Victorian times. And then, emerging next to it, we can see our workshop. A merger if you like, of old traditional techniques and new modern construction techniques. Very typical of the kind of buildings that are found in Scandinavia, upon concrete plinths, keep it off the ground, and using round wood in places and sawn timber in the rest. And then, as we come round, we can see the new Woodland College building with its brand new extension and cafe, which is using entirely innovative new methods of using wood in the round and local small diameter timber. We'll go inside and have a look how it's built. Before oil and gas and industrialisation took over our world, man depended entirely upon wood for his houses, construction, for the handles of tools, and of course for fuel, to keep him warm, to cook his food. Here at the Greenwood Centre we have examples of some of those historical methods of timber construction, for example, with this crook frame barn, where two large limbs of, in this case, a sweet chestnut tree, but more typically an oak, will be split straight down the middle to form two matching symmetrical pairs, which would then be jointed at the top and form the central structural strength of these crook buildings. Smaller diameter oak material and sometimes hazel, like these panels we can see around the bottom of the wall, will be used to infill and to close the holes in the walls, which would then often be wattled and daubed. And inevitably, a building like this would have been heated with wood. But now we're trying to go beyond these methods and find new methods of construction with wood that can take us into the end of the 21st century with confidence that we're not going to keep on pillaging the Earth's resources to provide our homes and our warmth. Here we are now inside the new Woodland College, built in 2000. This building exhibits novel, new, innovative construction techniques which allow the building to be better insulated and use less energy, whilst also utilising timber in the round as nature grows it, keeping all of its intrinsic strength intact. These sweet chestnut pillars here, supporting ash poles that hold up the roof, are the entire structural strength of this building. That removes the need for any weight-bearing elements within the walls themselves. So those walls are essentially two skins, inner and outer, with an insulation layer in between, and no cold bridge to let heat escape. As a result, this building needs hardly any heating at all, and retains something like 70% of its heat. And then, when we need it and the temperature is very cold, we turn back to an old traditional form of heating, the wood burner inside its main hall. There are three main forms of heating your home with wood. The open fireplace. Better suited to coals is an incredibly inefficient way of burning particularly wood. Indeed, tests have shown that some open fireplaces actually remove heat from the room, so you're actually taking heat out of your house by having a fire rather than putting some into it. This wood burner, like many modern wood burners, can get you up to 70% efficiency. That's 70% of the potential heat in the wood is actually being realised into your home. But finally, and a lot more efficient, are the modern wood boilers, where the heat from the wood is used to heat hot water, which then provides for a central heating system, or a hot water system for a building. That's what we've got here at the Greenwood Centre, a modern log boiler system with a heating network, pipes running up and down the site, that provides the heat for all four buildings here, and hot water for two of them, including a shower block and a cafe behind them. This is a modern log boiler. It takes a batch of logs, about a wheelbarrow worth, and it burns them with an induction fan sucking the burning air down through a vortex and recirculating it back through the combustion chamber. This ensures that all the tars and saps that are within the wood are combusted at a high temperature, over 450 degrees, and this greatly increases the efficiency of the burning of the wood. Getting this up to something like 90 or 95% efficient, that's 9/10 of the energy in the wood that Matt's putting into this boiler is going to end up as hot water in a large storage tank in the adjacent building. That then will feed the central heating and the hot water for the whole of this site. Obviously here at Greenwood Centre we generate a lot of the wood for the boiler ourselves, or it comes from local woodlands, and it's the poor grade material that helps us manage those woodlands.
You just load it straight up, you can end up with a boiler full of wood and it's not lighting.
Yeah, and you can't get it out. Yeah. I know I ended up shoving kindling in the bottom. Yeah. Like a maniac.
Let it
and I had the metal bar in there, bashing it about.
Once it's had a bit of a clean, well no, it's quite hard to light it actually, to start.
Yes, yes.
For some reason, whether it's because you're taking hot coals out or what. Yeah, we've looked into getting one of these for the house, but they are quite expensive. £10,000 is one quote we've had for boiling. Although they're super efficient and brilliant, they're not. We don't know how long it takes to get the money back really. With our bills it may take over 5 to 10 years really to get the money back. But there is other systems out there, so just keep looking.
As Matt was saying, log boilers like this are probably in most cases too big for a domestic situation, but there are other options. The wood burner we saw back in the college is over 70% efficient, and some of the more modern ones will get even better than that. And they're more appropriate for the home scale. They're not quite as efficient with the back boiler, but they're getting better. There's also modern wood pellet stoves, which are so well automated these days that it's almost like having gas or oil. They'll suck their pellets from a store underneath your lawn and compress their ash so you can leave them set to keep the frost off for up to 3 months without having to feed them or de-ash them. So there are wood fuel solutions at many different scales. Here, with 4 buildings and a district network, we have one of the larger log boilers. Bigger buildings like schools and leisure centres are now putting in wood chip systems, often up to 1 megawatt in strength, running whole blocks of council offices. So wood chips and logs, they're the things that we can produce out of our own woodlands from the poorer grade wood that can provide the heat we need from our homes and reduce our dependence on what is now imported oil and gas. If you want to know any more about this, go to the Heartwoods website and the Biomass Energy Centre website. The links on there and the information on there are almost endless. They'll take you wherever you want to go about suppliers, about agents and about installers. And they can also give you information on the many grants that are available both across the country and in specific areas around the country. The very principle of how this boiler, particularly log boilers, work is that you're not taking heat from the boiler itself. You're taking the heat from the heat store inside. There's a giant tank of water. The boiler heats the tank of water feeds the heating and hot water systems for the whole site. So it's the temperature in the tank of water that determines whether the heating system's working or not. The boiler simply tops that up. So it doesn't matter when you put your boiler on, it just feeds into that tank, and as long as there's heat in that tank, your heating and hot water systems work.
It should empty it once a week. Every fortnight gets a bit of a scrape and an empty, and once a month it gets a full strip down. A strip down of the main boiler parts, and it gets a major one once a year.
There's very little waste in this. When you burn wood, you're generating something like 1.5 to 2% ash, so you're reducing the volume greatly. That ash is wood ash, so it's pot ash. It's perfectly good for your garden. You can put it on your compost heap, it won't do any harm. This particular boiler cost in the region of £16,000–17,000, and the whole installation for this site was nearer 30. But being a charity, we obtained grants for much of that cost, and used this boiler as a demonstration to illustrate to people how modern wood-fuelled heating can supply their homes with the heat and hot water they need. The installation here, indeed, was a lot more expensive than a typical one might be. We're on an old railway station site with compacted hardcore for the ground, so the heating main, the big insulated water pipe that runs the length of this site, took quite a lot of digging in, and to fit these kind of heating into buildings after they've been built is quite costly. If you were to put a modern wood fuel heating system into a new build, you'd find the costs a lot more acceptable.